Good afternoon, everybody. Well, 2 years ago here at Adaptable Lawyer, I had talked to you guys about my journey in reinventing my practice. And I wanted you guys to learn from my mistakes, from my trials, my tribulations, and to see what I'd learned from it. And I promised you at that time that I'd give you guys an update. I'd tell you where we were going from there. Well, just as a quick recap, you might remember that opportunity to me is spelled with 5 P's. And those 5 P's that are listed up on your screen kind of help guide you as to what you need to do to look and identify new opportunities, new ways to reinvent your practice. But really, that is, the O in opportunity is part of a bigger thing called the road show. And road is spelled with 2 D's. The last D is called describing what you do to your target audience. So once you've reinvented yourself, how do you get the word out there? That's what I've been working on for the last 2 years. Now, I'm going to say a word that most lawyers don't really think much about, and that's branding. We don't think much about it. To us, our brand is simply our name and our reputation. But it doesn't have to be a scary concept. It doesn't have to be a foreign concept. We as lawyers do this every day. We tell stories. And branding is ultimately about storytelling. But it's a different kind of storytelling. And this is where the discipline comes in. We're learning a new discipline comes in. A couple of years ago, I read a couple of profound books that helped me along this journey. The first one is this one, All Marketers Are Liars by Seth Godin. Now, what Seth tells us is that whenever you come across a product, a very, very good product, normally the people who have made that product have branded it such that you as a consumer tell yourself a story, something that the producer never had to do themselves. Made to Stick by the Heath brothers is another fantastic book, and it tells you about how to make viral and what they call sticky messaging. As lawyers, we want to work on this, not only in the jury room, but also prior to getting that client. Branding is ultimately about hitting people on all of their senses. It's the feel of your business card. It's the look of your website. It's the color of your logo. It's the image that you're trying to portray. The other part about describing, the second step, is finding an audience. More often than not as lawyers, when we talk to non-lawyers, potential clients, they don't always understand what we do. We're not tailoring what we say to the people that need to hear it. We need to put more thought into this. Step 1 in that process is identifying who we're trying to talk to. Who's your client? Are they individuals, corporations, governments, nonprofits? Who is it? Once you've identified your community, though, the next step is deciding how you want to fit in within that community. Do you want to blend in? Do you want to stand out a little bit? What is your message going to be? That particular message, you start working backwards, and it helps you develop your brand and your story. The trick for us lawyers, though, is keeping it simple, stupid. We learned that in law school. We apply it when we're trying to argue a case to a jury. But how many times do we apply that when we're trying to help gain a new client? Networking is another big aspect of this. Now, most of us think of networking as going to lunch with other lawyers. A lot of us think of it that way. It's far deeper than that. It's about getting out into that particular community that you have identified and making sure they know who you are. But you've got some choices. You've got some profound choices. You can join a service organization like Rotary. A lot of lawyers do a lot of great business out of Rotary. There's church groups, houses of worship. There's trade associations, not necessarily legal ones. One of the best examples I saw a few years ago was a firm out in Staten Island. They wanted to make sure that the people of Staten Island, the business community, knew who they were. So once a month, they would host lawyers and lattes. And they would get the community out to come hear about the latest legal issues of the day. And they would do it at a local Staten Island coffee shop, not a Starbucks. Okay, so what they were saying is that we're available. We're in this community, and we are here for you. And that really helped them with their local branding because that was their community, was the Staten Island business community. Finally, we need to talk about credibility. Most of the time as lawyers, we think of credibility once we're in the courtroom. We think it has to do with credibility with the judge, with our opposing counsel, maybe with the opposing party. I'm going to tell you that from a branding perspective, from a reinvention perspective, credibility predates all that. We have to think about how we present ourselves, how we develop credibility in our brand before we engage the client. Something that we all need to do in the steps towards reinvention. It really boils down to articulating a value. More often than not, what you hear from lawyers is, I'm a very good lawyer and I win cases and I'm very good in the courtroom. What we have to think about is how to quantify that for the particular client. So when we're out there describing what we do, think of it as bank. It's your branding, it's your audience, it's your networking, and it's your credibility. Now, we've only had 5 minutes to cover these topics. I'll be around for the rest of the day. I should be around tomorrow. And please reach out to me if you have any questions, if you want to discuss your particular issues. I'm happy to go over my failures, my lessons, and the things that I've learned from all that. So thank you all very, very much. Thank you for being part of Adaptable Lawyer.